Today, I want to talk to you about the notch. Anytime there's a phone that's released with a notch, there's always this very, very loud, irate group of people who just hate on the notch. So I'm here to give you a couple of thoughts of mine, call it unsolicited thoughts, on why the design of the notch itself is not only not a big deal, but is actually pretty smart. The notch was introduced by the Essential phone as a means of trying to allow for as much screen as possible on the front of a phone while still keeping some of the key functionality that we expect as part of modern-day smartphone. And to be fair, we've given up some good stuff already. A lot of phones these days are starting to either move the fingerprint scanner to the back or removing it entirely. You see phones a lot less frequently with home buttons or any sort of functionality that requires a physical push on something. And I mean, it's not like we have keyboards anymore on most phone products. Now, you can look back at the evolution of smartphones and you can see that this has been happening over time, right? Nobody's surprised by the fact that we're trying to squeeze more screen out of our phones. Phones are going basically towards a clear glass rectangle. I think that's where we're going to end up. The notch? Temporary fix, right? And the truth is, as a temporary fix, it's a pretty good looking fix. I think actually it kind of gives each phone an individual characteristic and quality that kind of makes it its own a little bit. You even at one point had Lou, who was doing a video about how to remove the notch on your iPhone. Now he's introducing apps that let you insert the notch into a phone if it's not Apple or doesn't have a notch. The notch is here to stay. It's not that intrusive. At worst, it's a very slight inconvenience for a few minutes. It's not a big deal. Talos of Tech put it best. If Apple could not notch, they would not notch.
There is not yet a way to embed Face ID or the front-facing speaker underneath the screen, and I'm sure that Apple's working on that because I feel like if Apple had the option to remove the notch, they probably would.
I think it actually makes apps much more usable and good looking. Apps that can't incorporate the notch, they just shrink down a little bit and you're not really missing anything on the screen. And apps that do incorporate it, they use it for the little wings become information engines. It's so convenient. And yes, I know, we took out the part where you no longer have your battery percentage on the phone. Don't at me, I don't care. When you have the notch, you actually can turn it into something really interesting, right? You can be creative. Dan at Mac Rumors, he is absolutely on the same page.
After using the iPhone 10 and then taking a look at the same app on an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus, I think the notch trade-off to me is worth hiding those larger top and bottom bezels. My favorite apps just look better to me on the iPhone 10 compared to the 8 Plus.
And we're not talking about companies that are, small mom and pop shops that are just dipping their toes into the world of smartphones, right? We're talking about companies like OnePlus with the 6 that's coming out, or Huawei with the P20 and the P20 Pro, or LG with the G7. I mean, these are companies that you know, love, and respect, and they're coming out with the notch on their phones. So clearly, this isn't just some accident of design, they're onto something. And the fact that Apple was the one in the iPhone 10 to introduce a wider adoption of the notch is, I think, actually really what burns people, right? I know and appreciate that you don't want Apple's design choices ultimately influencing somebody like Samsung, who, yes, indeed, just filed a patent for a new phone with a notch. But the truth is that Apple has the ear of a lot of consumers. And if Apple puts it out there and people like it, other manufacturers are going to look at it and go, hey, they must be onto something, we should give it a shot too. But at the same time, the notch is temporary. This isn't a long-term thing. Whether it's Samsung or OnePlus or whomever, Huawei may be the one who comes up with a version of a smartphone that is almost completely bezel-less, that doesn't require a notch. And I gotta be honest with you, until Apple adopts it, the larger community won't. That's just how it is right now. So the next time somebody tells you that the notch is
stupid, worthless, no good, you forgot ugly,
I don't want to hear it. You can look at the notch as an intrusion, or you can look at it as an opportunity for somebody to get creative about how they present apps to you in that environment. And eventually it's going to go away. We're going to find a way to have all this stuff sitting under the screen. It's just a matter of time. So rather than looking at this as a tremendous inconvenience, I would advise you to think about it as a really interesting moment in smartphone history that you get to witness personally, that you yourself get to say 50 years from now, yes, kids, before phones were directly installed into our brain stems, I had a phone with a notch. Well, that's just my unsolicited opinion. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give that bell a ring as well, and we'll be back here soon with more thoughts on all the things happening in the world of tech and products. I'm your host, Jason. Have a great day.